Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you. So some point in time I'll do BIRADS for ultrasound and mammogram, and that should actually give a clear idea about which lesion should be biopsied.
Come from the first slide, please.
That's just a title slide showing core needle biopsy. So today I thought I'll take you through the core biopsies of the breast, particularly image-guided biopsies. And I think surgeons should get adapted using ultrasound for guiding biopsies. And regarding which lesion should be biopsied, we did do a session on fibroadenomas. So there we discussed about the benign and malignant features, and we should have a low threshold to biopsy if there is any single suspicious sign that is not convincingly benign. So image guidance for biopsies is preferable. I will explain why at a later date. There is, particularly in our country, there has been a lot of confusion and debate about whether we should do an FNAC, fine needle aspiration cytology, or core needle biopsy. And there's a lot of confusion. And core needle biopsy obviously is better because it gives more tissue to look at. FNACs is fraught with a lot of difficulties. So, and then image guidance means you can do it with ultrasound, with stereotaxy, with MR. So today in this session, we'll stick to ultrasound guided core needle biopsy. So again, when do you choose the imaging modality for biopsy? So basically, if it is palpable, one can do a freehand core without image guidance. But even if it's a palpable lesion, it's still better to use an ultrasound guidance, because sometimes it's very difficult to estimate the depth of the lesion. And when you do a clinical core without a guidance, without ultrasound guidance, you think you're entering the lesion, but you may not actually, and therefore have a not a very accurate biopsy. So it is always better to do it with ultrasound guidance. So obviously, if you see it on ultrasound guided biopsy is easier. But sometimes you say particularly calcifications, you see only on mammogram, you may not see anything on ultrasound. And so this is a situation where only a stereotactic biopsy can help. And some of these, when you do a lot of MR in the breast, which is again basically should be clear guidance about which lesions or which situations need breast MRI. But when you do an MR and you pick up a lesion that is not visible on X-ray and ultrasound, only picked up by MR. So these lesions are going to need an MR guided biopsy, because obviously it's not seen on mammogram and ultrasound. So this, so why image guided? So this lesion, if you see, this is probably about 2.5 centimeters and should be easily palpable. And if you do a core biopsy without image guidance, your needle might actually pass through this bit. And we discussed this earlier. This is a mixed echogenic lesion. The center of this lesion is anechoic, and there is a small peripheral rim of this tumor. This area is basically necrotic tumor. So when the tumor grows fast, and the center of it actually gets cut off from its blood supply, it undergoes necrosis. And so the needle, when you do a clinical core, you cannot direct your needle to this part, because you don't know that this is there. You put a needle, you take a sample, send it to the pathologist. Pathologist is going to say that there is necrotic tissue, and they cannot give a clear diagnosis. So which is why putting a ultrasound probe, then you can actually because this is the area that you want to take for a diagnosis. So you can direct your needle to go through this area, or you can direct your needle to go there, or biopsy the solid area, and therefore get live viable tissue for pathologists to look at. So the other advantage is the vasculature. So sometimes a challenge with core biopsy is bleeding and hematoma. So hematoma usually resolves. It's not a major problem. But suppose you're going to operate immediately within a week or 10 days, and you plan a breast conservation. So when you do a breast conservation, you go by your tactile feel about the margins when you do an excision, and you have a hematoma there, then sometimes you are not able to clearly differentiate the normal tissue and the tumor tissue, and then you end up excising more, and it's a bit, it gets a bit distorted. So you don't like to have too big a hematoma when you do a biopsy, and you can still manage. But so wherever possible, if you put Doppler like this, you know the blood vessels, and accordingly you can actually direct your needle away from the blood vessels and therefore avoid a big hematoma. So these are the reasons why image guidance is preferable. And of course, sometimes you end up missing the whole lesion if it's not image guided. So a lesion could be in the quite posterior, and when you actually feel, it's very difficult to judge the thickness of the lesion and the breast. And you do a blind core, your needle may not pass through the targeted lesion at all. You may just end up taking tissue around the lesion, and you think you've biopsied, but then the pathologist says it's normal breast tissue, adenosis, fibrosis, whatever, and then it leads to a false negative result. So if you use a guidance, you can ensure that the needle is going through the lesion. So again, regarding the debate about FNAC or core biopsy, time and again we see results like, inconclusive smears or inadequate smears, and therefore they're not able to comment. That means you have to do another procedure, and many of them have, at this point in time, will go and do an excision biopsy, which is again not a ideal situation. So false negatives, sometimes, if you have a higher degree of suspicion, false negative, you may actually do another modality, either a core biopsy at that point or excision. You will not let go. And both actually false negative and false positives are possible. False positives is very bad. I mean, I have personally had instances early in my career, two situations where, FNAC was positive, and we do a definitive treatment based on that FNAC, and then it comes back, pathology comes back saying that it is only a fibroadenoma and not a cancer at all. And that is tragic. I mean, unforgivable. So false positives are dangerous. False negatives also are bad, because sometimes false negative, you just put it aside and say reassure the patient, come back 6 months, follow up, or sometimes no follow up at all, and then it becomes advanced malignancy. So which we don't like to miss a malignancy. We need a clear diagnosis, and therefore an image guided core biopsy is better. And in a situation where you're planning neoadjuvant chemotherapy and then operate. So when you do that, you do not do a core biopsy upfront. So this with neoadjuvant chemotherapy, particularly with all these newer agents that we have, there is a very good pathological complete response. So a very significant percentage of tumors disappear. And then you don't have enough. When people argue that you can do ERPR on cytology slides, but ERPR is so challenging with even histopathology, with a lot of pre-analytic issues. You don't want to miss doing these crucial tests which determine your treatment related decisions. So if you're planning neoadjuvant chemotherapy, you should not rely only on FNAC for diagnosis. You should have a core biopsy and upfront estimation of ERPR and HER2. So this is very important. And then this is the reason, because receptor studies, later if the tumor disappears, you may not be able to do, and that is a very important treatment related decision. So advantages of core biopsy, obviously the accuracy is higher provided you get the representative tissue, and we already talked about this. Another important thing which we are realizing the value of more and more now, particularly in institutions with research capability, is tumor banking. So the tumor banking is a very important aspect of cancer care. So we need material, particularly if you're giving chemotherapy, you need upfront tissue, you need tissue after chemotherapy, and all of this will help in research. So if the material is available, there's some bright mind, somebody will be able to look at it and come up with new drugs, new treatments, new prognostications, prognostic tests, many possibilities. So this is something we should all, as surgeons, we have better control over tissue. So we should think of participating in these tumor banks. Either set it up on your own. If you can't, at least work with some local research institutes where all this is preserved. So what technique? No? So we all know about the regular true cut biopsy. So again, various gauges are available. Now, ideal for breast is 14 gauge. Now, people use, I've seen people using 18 gauge and all. The tissue is very slender and flimsy, and not enough tissue for pathologists to look at. So 14 gauge is ideal for breast, and in this regular core needle biopsy, you need multiple passes. So you make an incision, put your needle in, take one sample, take it out, take out the tissue, and then pass again for the second biopsy. So you need at least 2 to 4 bits of good tissue. So if you have convinced that your biopsy is good, 2 bits are fine, but sometimes you may need a little bit more. So, and there is a trajectory, the needle trajectory, meaning when you use an automated equipment, core needle biopsy gun, when you fire the gun, the needle actually goes forward 2 to 2.2 centimeters forward. So that trajectory you have to keep in mind while positioning the needle. I'll show you a picture later. Whereas the other core biopsy techniques that we have is the vacuum assisted technique. You must have heard about names like Mammotome, Suros, and this Bard, Vacora, and all that. So this vacuum assisted has a motor which actually enables suction. So these needles are much bigger. So the regular core biopsy needles that we use are about 14 gauge, whereas the vacuum assisted needles have 11 or 9 gauge needles. You get much bigger samples, and it's just usually a single pass. So you give local, make a nick, pass the needle inside, and with the needle inside, you just rotate the needle, turn it around with the needle in the same position, and then it takes biopsy from all around the lesion. And there is no trajectory here. It remains where you position it. There is no needle going forward to take a sample. And obviously you get large samples, and sometimes even complete excision is possible. So the suction that is enabled by that motorized system actually sucks all the tissue into a chamber, and this chamber can be disconnected and the sample can be retrieved. And so obviously all of these are disposable equipment. And the only thing is, the disadvantage with this technique is that it's very expensive. The needles actually cost something like 13 to 15,000 each time you use, and because it involves a lot of plastic tubing, it is very difficult to re-sterilize and use, and it is recommended to use only once as the manufacturer advises, as a single-use disposable system. And so the cost is quite high, and so I restrict this vacuum-assisted technique only for stereotactic biopsy. So it's very, very easy to do with these needles, unlike the core biopsy, the regular 14 gauge automated or semi-automated needles, where you have to have multiple passes. So that is a difference. So this is the size difference. So this is from a distance, so you don't perceive the size. This is 11 gauge. This is a 14 gauge needle. So you get thick samples and a lot of samples, because with the single pass you rotate 360 degrees, you get plenty of samples, and it's quite actually thick. If you see, this will definitely thicker than so again, different needles are available: petite needle, standard needle. Petite needle, the sample is a little shorter, 1.2 centimeter, but with the standard needle you can get up to 2 centimeters. Here this is about 2.2. And so this is the basic. This is usually done as an office procedure. You don't have to schedule it to take the patient to theatre or minor OT. It can be done in the clinic in your consulting room. And so it doesn't require much equipment in the way. You just need some sterile gauze, gloves, and a Levin blade, and obviously some local anesthetic. And make sure that your bottling container is ready. Now, after you take the biopsy, the sister shouldn't be running around to bring the buffered formalin container. So all this should be available. And so this is the needle that I use. I use the Bard gun 14 gauge needle. This gun can be repeatedly used, and it lasts actually well maintained. It should last you a few years. So this is the needle, disposable needle, which is fixed onto this gun, and this is use and throw. This is disposable, but this component is a fixed component. So this is the easiest, because I do a lot of volume, this works out economically for me. There are other options. You could use these Bard guns. These are single-use disposable Bard guns, and it comes loaded. And it's this is again the color coded. So the green knob here indicates that it is 14 gauge, and this needle length that you choose, because these needles are available for biopsies everywhere. You get various lengths of the needle too. For breast, choose 9 centimeter needle. So the reason being, breast is a superficial organ. And 9 centimeters, you don't have to actually use the full length of the needle at all to pass within the breast, because you're doing image guided. You can position the needle, and all you need to is insert about 2 to 3 centimeters of the needle and then fire. So this actually gives a better control over the gun and the needle. If the needle is longer, then your hand tends to wobble, and you cannot accurately position the needle tip around in the lesion. So a 14 gauge 9 centimeter needle is the ideal needle for breast biopsies. Obviously, breast is not like liver. It is a superficial organ, not in a container, not in a cavity. And there is no big, unless you're doing an axillary core biopsy, there is no big major vessel there. Whatever, everybody is concerned about bleeding. Just put pressure there. Whatever the bleeding is, it usually settles down in 5 minutes. So one need not be hesitant about doing these biopsies. Only thing you have to remember is keep the needle parallel to the chest wall. Otherwise, you end up biopsying the pleural cavity and end up with a pneumothorax if you angulate. Because I told you there is a trajectory, and when you fire, you might actually end up going forward into the chest if you are not careful about the angulation of the needle. So this is the other Bard needle that I told you. There are other needles in the market. This is called Achieve. This is also a very handy needle, and this needle you can actually control the throw. So because you can actually fire from outside, enter, and then do the second fire after. So which means there is no trajectory. The needle doesn't move forward. And in control situations in the axilla, this could be very handy. So here you cannot adjust the throw, but with this gun you can adjust the throw. So what I mean by throw is, when I fire the gun, this needle tip moves 2.2 centimeter forward. So that is the trajectory or the needle throw. So in this you can adjust 2.2 versus 1.2. Suppose I'm doing an axillary core biopsy and there is a vessel close by. then I might actually change the throw to 1.2 centimeters, so my needle does not touch the axillary vein. Otherwise, I might just stay with 2.2. So that is not possible with this biopsy gun. It was only 2.2. So always protect your probe with cling film, because body fluids and with all the possible contaminations, just put a layer of gel first and then put the cling film, what we use in the kitchen, a cling film, and then another layer of gel on top. So that gives a good protection. And this is just a demo to show the axis approach. So you've positioned your probe, and the lesion is under the probe. It's imaged, and you actually make sure that you go along the long axis of the probe. I have seen people who go like this, the transverse approach, where the needle is actually perpendicular to the probe. So this actually is not ideal, because you don't see the entire length of needle. You only see the needle tip on the screen, and it is very difficult to judge whether the needle is coming into the lesion or not, and it's not ideal. So this approach, long axis approach, means you see the entire length of the needle in the screen, and you can actually position the needle exactly where you want it to go. And it's important to hold the probe correctly, because see, as the probe, when you hold like this, the ultrasound waves go perpendicular like this to the skin. And if you tilt, that also, the ultrasound waves also tilt, and then your needle and the ultrasound wave, that if it doesn't match, you don't see the needle on the screen, and you keep chasing. You chase the needle with the probe, you chase the probe with the needle, and it's not an ideal situation. You'll be wasting a lot of time. So holding this probe is very important to get the lesion and the alignment between the lesion, ultrasound sound waves, and your needle all in one line. So, and ideally the non-dominant hand should hold the probe. So if you're right-handed, your needle should be in your core biopsy gun should be in your right hand, and your non-dominant hand should actually hold and steady the probe. And once you hold and get your lesion under the probe, then try not to move the probe at all. So if you keep moving the probe, again you lose the lesion, and you lose this alignment of this needle with the ultrasound waves. So once you fix
the ultrasound probe,
once you fix it, don't move this hand. And so if you put a lot of jelly around here, then the probe gets slippery over the breast and keeps moving. So which is why when you actually put the jelly, only a small, very little amount of gel, so that it doesn't spill over the rest of the breast, and it doesn't keep all these things are simple things, but it can make the biopsy easy or difficult. So the non-dominant hand holds the probe, and your dominant hand, if you're right-handed, right, if you're left-handed, left. So the dominant hand holds the needle, and make sure that, see, this is what is important. The needle should be always parallel to the chest wall. It should, if it gets angulated, you'll end up doing a pleural biopsy. So in the screen, you'll see like this. You do a transverse approach like this, then you should see the entire needle like this coming into the when you do the biopsy, when you fire, the needle should come into the lesion like this. And always save a frame like this to document that your needle is in the correct place. There is a medico-legal dispute later, you can prove that your biopsy was in the right place. So again, this part about needle coming from this side and that side, I'll leave it. When you do if those of you who use the ultrasound will know that, you know, there's a right to left and left to right on the probe. There is a mark, and so depending on how you position the probe, if you position the probe like this, or you tilt it, ultafy the probe, then the needle can appear as if it's coming from this side like this, or this side like this. So it's better to keep this fixed, because every time you want the needle to come predictably from one side, and otherwise, it's very confusing to for your mind to get used to it. So this is a bit technical. When we actually do it, it's easy to explain with the ultrasound machine and the probe, but the radiologist will understand what I'm trying to say here. So you should get used to the needle coming from one side of the screen. That depends on how you hold the probe. So usually the vendors will give an indication on the probe itself, or you just put some jelly and touch the probe on one side. Then say, for example, one side here, then you know whether the screen is oriented from this side to this side or this side to this side. So then local anesthetic is injected. So I've got the probe here. My probe is fixed. Again, positioning the patient is important, because breast is a conical organ. And when you lie down in ptotic breast, it tends to flatten out. But otherwise, it is like a conical organ, and therefore your probe should rest comfortably on the entire surface. If the probe is not resting comfortably, you don't see the image on the screen. And if the probe has to be dead perpendicular to the chest wall. So otherwise, you don't see the full length of the lesion and the needle. You should position in such a way that the breast is flatter. So sometimes a little hands above the head, a little chest pad under the chest, like you position for surgery, or you ask the nurse to flatten out the breast and hold it for you. And if you don't have an extra assistant, what I do is just use a micropore tape, pull up the breast, because in ptotic breast, the breast is very loose, and the skin also has a lot of rugal folds. So this stretching is very important, because otherwise then you keep fiddling around when you start doing the procedure. So spending that extra 2 minutes to get the position right before you start doing the biopsy helps in a quick and easy biopsy. So you put a tape to flatten the breast in whichever area that you're going to biopsy. Make sure that the breast in that area is flatter. So accordingly you position the patient. And also, again, which side do you stand and do the procedure? These things are important, because I have seen some radiologists, when they do a procedure for the right side breast, they will actually stand for the left breast, they'll actually stand on the right side and go over the table like that, and then biopsy with an awkward angle. Obviously, if your elbow and shoulder and hand is not comfortably positioned, then the biopsy becomes tricky. And as it is tricky with an awake patient, and the patient is also very anxious. And if your positioning is not right, you're making it difficult for yourself. And then if it's difficult for you, it's difficult for the patient too. So positioning the patient is very important. If you have a luxury of having the table in the center and you can go around the table, and when you do the right, stand on the right. When you do the left, stand on the left, and do the biopsy. In my place, I do not have the luxury of the space. So what I do is, when I do the right, I stand on the right. When the lesion is on the left, then I change the patient, put the patient's head on the other side of the couch. So the left breast is on my right. So these things actually make a big difference in getting this biopsy done comfortably. So then the probe hand, as I said, should be steady, and the biopsy needle should be parallel. And suppose you have difficulty in seeing the needle on the screen, because you do not fire unless you see the needle on the screen. Blind firing the needle is not good. So you need to see the needle on the screen. So if you're not able to see, then that means this alignment is not correct. So how do you correct it? Keep this hand steady. Don't move this. You've got the lesion here under your probe. Keep this hand steady. Don't move this at all. And there's a specific way in which I hold the probe here. The probe has a waist, and just, I have seen people holding the probe here. So if you hold the probe there, what happens? This length of the probe will wobble. and or some people gripping as if your life is holding on to the probe. So when you do that, again, your focus is on gripping that probe, and you lose control over here. So gently, the probe has a waist here. So gently hold the waist of the probe and keep it fixed. And as I said, don't smear too much jelly all around. Keep it fixed. Don't move this hand at all. This probe remains fixed. And just wobble this needle back and forth to actually get the needle on the screen. So when you move this needle right to left and left to right a little bit, then you'll actually figure out which is the ideal position for the needle to be seen on the screen. So moving both the hand, which the probe hand and the needle hand both at the same time, it is like chasing each other in a maze. It's not going to help. So this is what I meant by a throw. So the needle, before you biopsy, you see the needle coming right there. You see the needle track, and then you position it at the edge of the lesion. And then when you fire, so the fire is that green, there is a button. So each needle has its own. So this is the fire button. So here for this needle, you have a fire here, a button here, and then you can also fire from the bottom of the needle. So here for this, there is a silver color button here. This is actually the knob with which you adjust the throw. So this is what I meant by the throw. When you actually fire, press that fire button, your needle from here moves this much forward. This is the needle trajectory or the throw. And this is why, so suppose you don't see the length of the needle. The needle, when you throw, it should be visible to you on the screen when it fires. If you don't see it, you might be blindly hitting something else, and it may not be the target. You could, if it's posterior situated lesion, you could actually harm the patient by actually penetrating the chest. So you should avoid all this, which is why, and in places like axilla, you could actually do a lot more damage. So this is why you have to see where the needle is going, and the entire length of the needle should be visible when you do the biopsy. So this, with the barred gun, the throw is usually 2.2 centimeters. With that green barred gun, you can adjust it and make it 1.2 also. But the automated disposable one, it is 2.2. It's a fixed throw. So sometimes when you biopsy very small lesions like that, it is very deceptive. You think your needle is gone through the lesion, but your needle can be anterior to the lesion and it still be visible on the screen because the lesion itself is very small. So then you think you biopsied, but the tissue is actually not representative. So which is why in this situation, then keep the needle, don't remove the needle, turn your probe in right angles. So normally this is what is in long axis, isn't it? So you turn the probe 90 degrees, you see the cross section of the needle. So this is the length of the needle. When you turn the probe 90 degrees on the breast, then you see the cross section. You see this is actually looking as if the needle is gone right in the middle of the lesion. But when you do a cross section, you can see it's just about touching the posterior margin of the lesion. So this is just to ensure that your needle was within the lesion and not anterior to the lesion. This is applicable in very small lesions. You don't have to worry about it in bigger lesions. In very small lesions, when you biopsy, in order to make sure that the needle traversed in the target area and not anterior to it, because anterior to it also it will still be visible, but it will not go through the lesion, so your biopsy will not be accurate. So turn that probe and look at it in the cross section where your needle position is, and then if you're satisfied that it is within the lesion, then you take it out and take the sample. So this is how it looks, and when you take it out, you have to do it in one stroke. And if you keep moving that, I'll show that video, it will probably be clearer when I'll explain there. And then bottle it immediately. Go straight into buffered formalin. Fixation is very important. If it's exposed, lying outside for a bit, then the tissue is not very good, particularly fixation. This is what is called as pre-analytic issues for ER/PR and HER2. Fixation is very, very important for estimating for good histopathology and for doing immunohistochemistry like ER/PR and HER2. So this fixation determines the outcomes of your ER/PR result. So immediately bottle it in buffered formalin. Not only bottle, label it, and time and again there are mistakes when labeling. Side goes wrong, right versus left. So name gets changed. It's very, very important. If your hospital has stickies, just stick the stickies immediately. Otherwise, keep all the labeling, everything details ready. And I have this policy of 2 people checking. So somebody writes the label when they stick. Another person also reads out and checks the side and the name with the patient, making sure that we don't make a mistake in the side of the lesion, because these are a lot of medical legal issues, and that little effort that you put in goes a long way in making sure that everything is done correctly. And close it tightly, seal the bottle, because you don't want tissue to be lost accidentally. So all these are important steps. So okay, I'll just show the video. 1 minute, I'll just share and go.
Yes, sir.
1 minute.
ఇప్పుడు బయలుదేరండి స్టార్కి వెళ్ళి బిస్కెట్
Okay, a lot of it will be repetitive in this video. I'll skip those bits. Okay, I'll skip all these.
But Selvi, we can't see the video. We only can see the screen of your computer.
No, okay, I'll try again.
You can come out and come in, maybe.
You're seeing my screen now?
We are seeing a screen, yes.
The video seen?
No, not yet.
It's seen. It's playing on mine. No?
No, we can't. We had the same problem with Santosh John Abraham, so you can.
I don't know how to overcome that.
Go out.
Yeah. Stop share.
Sir, then.
So
No,
share screen. Huh?
I suggest
Sorry, what?
on computer you start playing the video, then share.
Okay. Okay, now how do I minimize this? Exit full screen. End of. Let's see.
But doing a breast biopsy is easier, it looks like. Then sharing the screen.
Yes, I think true. How do I make this? Is that seen?
Yes.
Can you see it now? Okay. Okay, a lot of this is repetitive, so I'll skip all this. So, so this is the typical core needle true cut biopsy. This needle is one, you don't get a variable needle length. It is always more than 9 centimeters. I'm not aware of a 9 centimeter needle with the conventional true cut biopsy. If this length of this needle is longer, somehow I don't feel the same control that I have with the 9 centimeter needle. That is one disadvantage. And two, you need both your hands to use this needle. So, which is why doing it under image guidance becomes difficult with this true cut, the conventional true cut needle, because you need one hand to hold the probe.
And I'm not ask a question here. See, do you have separate true cut needles for breast, these particular variety, because the same liver and other areas?
Core needles are the same. You get different core needles. The commonly used core needle, we all got used to saying true cut for everything, because true cut was the first core needle that came up some 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if I'm right. So this was the only needle that was available for a very long time. And then this is a semi-automated needle. It is not automated. You have to use both your hands to actually do the biopsy. And it requires 2 or 3 steps and needs both your hands to be used. So therefore, doing it under image guidance becomes difficult, because this hand is not free to hold the probe. You ask somebody else to hold the probe, you never get that alignment correct. The needle, probe and the breast lesion should all be aligned. And that if you don't get, your biopsy is not successful. So it's very difficult. If you hold the probe itself, it is like, getting used to that probe hand is very tough. And you ask somebody else to hold the probe. I have done personally myself, when you used to do an ADR, a lot of times image guided would be the radiologist will only hold the probe and you have to go and put the needle. And it is such a challenge. And what is exactly 4 or 5 minute procedure will become 15-20 minutes, and at the end of the day, we'll still not have a good sample. So, which is why I discarded using this needle at all. First reason why I said this, I don't like the needle length. When you have a longer length like this, the needle wobbles, and you don't seem to have the same control like you would with the 7 centimeters. It's like you have the range with firing equipment, isn't it? So 9 centimeter needle works well for breast. And also, if I let play the thing, so here when you put the needle in, then you push that needle forward. That is the, sorry, let me go back a bit. So that is the cutting edge into which the tumor is. When you pass that needle in, it cuts through the tumor, and the tumor gets locked into this chamber here. This is again about 2.2 centimeter. So once that is then you have to close that sheath over that cutting edge for you to withdraw the biopsy sample. So then you slide this forward into to cover that, and then take it out and push this out to take the sample. So to do that action, you need both your hands. You need to first push it in, and then with your hand steady, you push the inner sleeve. That cuts the tissue, and then the outer sleeve has to slide over the cutting chamber, and then together you withdraw. In that process, somewhere there is some discomfort, and many people don't get the good ideal tissue. This is more challenging with obviously palpable lesions. This is fine, but in a situation where you definitely need image guidance, this becomes challenging. So the cost of this needle is about 750 rupees. Might be a little lesser if you buy it in bulk, versus the gun that I use, Bard gun. Bard gun is a one-time investment, and it costs about 90,000, that green gun. And so if you do a lot of biopsies, then they give the gun free. So I order about 500 needles, I get one gun free. Actually, they don't charge me for the gun, but I pay for 500 needles. So which 500 needles, I might use it in about 6 months. So like it is worth an investment, because the needle that goes, the disposable needle that goes into that Bard gun is only 1400. So between 750 to 1400, to me, I get a comfort in doing it. Results are accurate, and it actually serves well for the patient also. So cost-wise, it's not a major difference. But if you buy the disposable gun, the MRP is close to 3,000, I think. And in the pharmacies, the hospital pharmacies, when whatever they sell is 3,000 or 3,500 now. So that becomes expensive. So you have to clearly make a choice there which is comfortable and use diligently. So this is the other BART gun that I said. This is again fully automated, and it comes like this. So you pulling both these buttons back is in that fire position, and this length is 9 centimeters. So when this is a trigger, when you press the trigger, the needle moves forward 2.2 centimeters and pull back only one. That exposes the cutting chamber, and you retrieve the tissue. So this is what I use, and so this needle comes separately, and this costs about 1,400. You fix it, and then the same principle. This silver button here is the trigger, and this thing is useful to that knob that I turned can actually fix the throw. So this is also 9 centimeters. Once you position and you fire, so this moves forward, and then you pull back once, and you get the sample. This pulling back, see that the cutting chamber is here, and you take it out. This pulling back, you have to do it in one stroke. So I have seen people struggle with it, and you make that kachak like 2-3 pull back, because it's quite both that other needle and this. For particularly women who do it with a little bit of delicate hands and whatever, if you don't pull it back in one stroke and you do keep doing that back and forth pulling back, it crushes the tissue here. So that is very important. Get used to the gun, the feel of the gun and the pressure required to pull back in one stroke. If you don't pull back in one stroke, you will run the risk of when the outer sheath goes forward, making more movements here, then the tissue gets crushed. And then the pathologist says crushed artifact. So that very important. So it's worth getting that right. So all this we had discussed earlier. I think I'll skip all this.
So you have 10 more minutes.
Yeah. And so this is the biopsy. So you just position. So this is what I meant. There's a little vendor-driven pointer here to say which side of the screen, whether it's right to left like this, or left to right like this, the screen. So you inject local anesthetic. I use about 2 ml, 1 to 2 ml. It creates a skin wheel. So again, the breast itself inside is insensate. The skin is what needs to be anesthetized carefully. You use a 11 blade to puncture, and the 11 blade incision is made right at the middle. So this is where your ultrasound direction of your ultrasound waves, and your needle has to meet that ultrasound wave. So right at the middle, and then you position the needle, and when you do this part, so this has to be right at the middle, dead center here. When you do this part, actually you should start looking at the screen to see the image on the screen, and then you put the needle there, position it, and fire. And when you fire, just document, save one picture immediately, ask your assistant to do, and then when you pull back, the tissue should come out looking like that. All this takes a matter of 2 minutes. Just getting the position right with the patient's hand above. You stand facing the patient on the same side. And again, so it's done about 2 to 3 times. So same here. So again, put the needle in, it goes forward. This is the throw that I meant. And the needle comes out, and you can actually see the needle track. And so you see the needle is parallel to the chest wall. If you angulate the needle, with the needle going that way, then you end up. So this is very important, pulling back in one single stroke. And then the tissue should come out like that, and it goes straight into formalin fixation. So if it is tumor tissue, it sinks immediately. It goes to the bottom. If it is fat, non-representative tissue, that tissue tends to float. So if it sinks immediately, that means you've taken the representative sample. So any questions?
But we'll have time for 2 questions and then we need to move to the next lecture.
Dr. Shelvi.
Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Hello?
can. Yes, I can.
Whichever BART gun you are using, that is autoclavable gun. Okay. So, do you require
no, there's no autoclavable and all. The green BART gun need not be autoclaved. The needle is just onto the gun.
Okay. And what is cost of that needle?
1400.
Okay. Okay. And what about the lubrication of the handheld instrument which you have?
There's no need to lubricate.
No need to lubricate. Okay.
No.
And any tips regarding very small lesions which you suspect it as a malignancy because they move here and there, we are unable to fix?
I showed you. They don't move. You fix the probe. I showed you to cross check with the cross section. Make sure that the needle is inside. That is the only challenge.
Okay.
If you see it on ultrasound, you should be able to biopsy, even if it is 3 millimeters.
Okay. Okay.
Just target it well.
Yeah, Dr. Amaravani, a question. Dr. Amaravani.
Very nice demonstration of the core needle biopsy. Even I do plenty of core needle biopsies. I just wanted to ask you one question. When you give that nick with the 11 number blade, suppose this turns out to be a malignant at a later stage, do you give the incision in the line of the future surgical incision?
Yes, good point. Yes, that is why surgeons should do the biopsy. If the radiologist won't have a clue as to where they'll place the incision. So surgeons, you will know if it is coming up for surgery, you will know where you want to put the incision. No? So accordingly, you can place. Suppose sometimes you may not be able to place in the line of your incision, then you have to do it otherwise, because doing that procedure for you to be comfortable is important. So whichever position, that is fine. And it has been proven by many studies that needle track need not be always excised, and needle track related seeding and recurrence is very remote. And anyway, if you do breast conservation, you are going to radiate. So you don't have to worry too much about sighting these lesions, but you don't want another extra scar somewhere else in the breast. So as far as possible, sight it within the line of your incision.
Okay, one more point I wanted to say, with very thin breast tissue, sometimes you have to pick up that lump and then do the core needle biopsy or something like that. Did you come across any of such things?
No, if it is seen on ultrasound, you should be able to biopsy. That is why do it under ultrasound guidance. So we need to get the hang of ultrasound first, and then use ultrasound to guide your biopsy. There should not be any
ultrasound.
Whatever be the breast size, wherever it is located, you can still do a core biopsy under image guidance. Sometimes some lesions are challenging, I agree, but it is always usually possible.
Okay. Do you usually do a FNAC of the axillary lymph nodes if they are suspicious?
I do a core because I'm comfortable doing it. But if somebody is not adept at doing it, then it's safer to do an ultrasound guided FNAC for the axillary lymph node. For axillary lymph node, FNAC is fine, because lymph node, for some reason, you get a good yield for a FNAC, and it is only an adjunct information, and it's not the primary information. So therefore, relying on FNAC for the node is fine, but not for the primary. But because I'm comfortable doing it, I do a core. Sometimes I do an FNAC also for the node.
Okay, thank you very much.
How many samples do we need to take, ma'am? Ideally?
So ideally, if you have good, if you're convinced 2 samples will be fine. But because I do tumor banking, I do about 3 or 4.
And do we need to send a sample separately for the ERPR at Duni?
No, the same histopathology. When you send it for histopathology, they make paraffin blocks, isn't it? That unstained slides they use for ERPR.
Selvi, Doctor, thank you so much for spending time on.
Yeah.
And I'll end the meeting here because I need to go for the next.
Thank you.